Hello everyone, thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to talk about Math 100, section 1.4, and this is all about adding numbers with signs on them, positive and negative numbers. So we've got two options, same sign or different sign. Let's look at adding numbers with the same sign. So adding numbers with the same sign, the first step, I like to quotation marks, ignore the sign, and add the values. And step 2, the answer matches the original signs, original signage. Now what do I mean by ignore? Well, I don't make note of the signs while adding because it's irrelevant when they have the same sign. An example, 5 plus 4. Well, that's 9. Similarly, negative 5 plus negative 4 is going to be equal to, well, what is 5 plus 4? Well, that's 9, and it's going to be negative. Notice, it didn't matter whether it was positive 5 plus positive 4 or negative 5 plus negative 4. The answer had a value of 9, just signed positively when they were positive and signed negatively when they were negative. You combine the values when they have the same sign. That's what I meant by quotation marks ignore. We just need to add the values. What about when there's different signs? Well, step 1, note the sign of the larger, in quotation marks, number. Step 2, find the difference between the unsigned values. And I'm going to put in parentheses absolute values here. And we'll talk about what I meant by that once we finish the third step. The third step, the answer has the sign from step 1. So whatever sign you noted in step 1. So first you note the sign of the larger number. Here, the quotation marks larger is to tell you that you're looking for the larger magnitude, not necessarily which number should be greater than or equal to the other one, right? For example, negative 2 is less than positive 1, but 2 is larger than 1, right? So negative 2 is the larger number. It has a larger magnitude. It says larger in quotation marks because you're noting the magnitude, not the actual value. Step 2, find the difference between the unsigned values. Here, you're looking at the absolute values is what you're really doing. But really, what you're doing in layman's terms, you're ignoring the signs while finding the difference. Step 3, the answer has the sign from step 1. So an example, let's say I have 5 plus negative 7. Well, which number is quotation marks larger? Is the negative 7. 7 is bigger than 5. So I know my answer is going to be negative. That's what steps 1 and 3 tell us. Step 2 says I need to know what the difference between the unsigned values is. Well, what is the difference between 5 and 7? That is negative 2. There's a difference of 2 between 5 and 7. And it's negative because the 7 tells me that. If I look at negative 12 plus 15. Well, which of these numbers is quotations larger? 15 is, so my answer is going to be positive. That's what steps 1 and 3 tell me. The second step says I need to look at the difference between those unsigned values. 12 and 15 have a difference of 3, so my answer is positive 3. So let's run through a whirlwind of examples, just to make sure we're in the hang of it. Negative 9 plus negative 2. Those are the same sign. So I know right away my answer is going to be negative. And since they're the same sign, I combine them. 9 and 2 combine to make 11, right? My second example, they're both fractions. So I'm going to make note of their fractions first. Then I notice they're both negative fractions. So I know my answer is going to be negative. Negative number plus negative number is negative number. Now I need to work with the common denominators. 3 and 4 have a common denominator of 12. So I'm going to write negative fraction bar 12 plus parentheses negative fraction bar 12, because I know those are going to be part of my answer, right? I know those are already going to go there. 1/4, well, to get from 4 to 12, I multiply by 3. If I do the 4 by 3, I have to multiply the 1 by 3 to get 3 in the top. For the 2/3, to go from 3 to 12, I multiply by 4. So 2 times 4 gives me 8 in the top. So I get negative 3/12 and negative 8/12 after getting a common denominator. I haven't done anything other than convert the fractions yet. Now, negative plus negative is negative. And I know the denominator is going to be 12. How did I know it was going to be 12? Well, because the denominator doesn't change when you add fractions. Now, since they have the same sign, I'm just going to combine the numbers. What is 3 plus 8? Well, that's 11. Since they have the same sign, I just combine them. So I get negative 11/12 for my answer. Notice I treated the denominator, the signs, and the addition all separately. I worked through each chunk in part. Now, negative 2.6 plus negative 4.7, these have the same sign, don't they? So my answer is negative. Now, maybe I'm bad at adding decimals, right? Well, 2.6 plus 4.7, those make 7.3. Notice, did I worry about the negative signs when typing into the calculator? No, right? Because I just need to add the magnitudes. I just need to add the values. I don't care about the sign, because I already figured out it was going to be a negative sign. I just combine the values. In our fourth example, they have different signs. Negative 12 plus 5. So, which number is bigger, 12 or 5? 12 is, so my answer will have a negative sign. What is the difference between 12 and 5? Well, that's 7. So the answer will be negative 7. Now, maybe number 5 scares me a little bit, but the first thing I'm going to do is convert my mixed number into an improper fraction, which means it'll have 3 in the bottom. It'll still be negative, right? Negative 1 1/3 will still be a negative fraction. But it's going to be, let's see, 1 times 3 is 3 plus 1. I'm going to have 4 in the top. So I have 5/6 plus negative 4/3. I need common denominators in order to add. What's a common denominator between 6 and 3? Well, it's 6, right? How do I go from 3 to 6 here in the second one? Well, I multiplied by 2, so I'll do the same to the top. Will give me 8/6 instead. Now, I know my answer is going to have 6 in the bottom, because I'm adding fractions with a denominator of 6. Is it going to be positive or negative? Which fraction is larger? Remember, quotation marks larger. 8/6 is bigger than 5/6. 8 is bigger than 5, right? So I know my answer is going to take the sign of this one, the 8/6, so it'll be a negative sign. Now I need to know what the difference between those numerators is. What is the difference between 5 and 8? Well, that's a difference of 3. So I get negative 3/6 when I combine those fractions. Notice I went piece by piece. I have one last step, and that's to reduce, because 3/6 reduces to 1/2, right? So my answer is negative 1/2. Notice I worked with the mixed number first, made it improper. Then I got common denominators. Then I worried about the sign. Then I worried about the addition. I went step by step. I didn't try and jump from here to here, because that's not easy, right? To go from here to here is ridiculous. But working step by step, we can see each part that makes the whole. Our sixth example. Which number is bigger, 8.1 or 4.6? Well, 8.1 is larger, right? So I know my answer is going to be positive. What's the difference between 8.1 and 4.6? 8.1 and 4.6? Well, they have a difference, if I subtract it in my calculator, of 3.5, and it'll be positive 3.5, because it takes the sign of the 8.1, because it was bigger. Notice, once again, when I typed it into the calculator, I ignored the negative signs, because I already knew the sign of the answer. I was just looking for the difference. Now, in our 7th example, we've got some order of operations going on, right? We've got brackets. So I need to solve this part first. So I'm going to copy down -3 plus, and then in brackets, I'm going to have whatever answer this gives me. 4 plus -8. Different signs. Which one's bigger, 8 or 4? 8 is bigger, so my answer will be negative. And the difference between 8 and 4 is 4. Between 8 and 4 is a difference of 4, right? So I get -4. Now I have the same signs, and I'm adding. -3 plus -4 is -7. So we had to go in order. The order of operations didn't change. We have to go in order. Same thing for our 8th example. We need to work out this portion first, because it's the innermost group of parentheses. So let's copy down 8 plus bracket, -2 plus 6. Hopefully we all agree that that should be positive 4, and we have a -3 here. Once again, I'm working in the brackets still, right? I'm working in my grouping symbols first. I'm going to have 8 plus 4 and -3. Well, it's going to be positive, because 4 is bigger than 3, and it's going to be what? Positive 1. 4 and -3 have a difference of positive 1. And then 8 and 1 make 9, right? So I went step by step. I did one addition at a time. I did not jump from start to finish. I didn't try and combine everything in one fell swoop. On the next page, we've got one more example. This one has absolute value signs, so let's copy out the problem. Make sure you're careful and notice the difference between absolute value signs, vertical bars, and brackets, vertical bars with little feet on them, right? It's got a footer and a head, right? Brackets versus absolute value. Both work like grouping symbols, though, so I need to figure out what's going on in my groups. Well, my first group, -9 plus 3. Different signs, 3 and -9. 9 is bigger, so my answer is negative. 9 and 3 have a difference of 6. So I get -6 in that first absolute value bar. 7 plus -11. Once again, different signs. Which number is bigger, 7 or 11? 11 is bigger, so I'll take the sign from that number. And then what's the difference between 7 and 11? Well, those have a difference of 4. Well, now I've got absolute value of something plus absolute value of something because I worked out those additions. What is the absolute value of -6? Well, hopefully we all agree it's 6. Plus, what is the absolute value of -4? That's going to be positive 4, right? Absolute value turns negative numbers into positive numbers. And then 6 plus 4, plain old 10, right? We can just combine those because they're positive numbers, right? That's regular old addition. And that is how adding signed numbers works. Notice it's important to know the rules because the rules tell you what you're doing. If they have the same sign, you're just combining the values and keeping the signage the same. If they have different signs, you're looking for the difference between the numbers. And then what's the sign on the answer? Well, it depends on which number had the larger magnitude. I like to use quotation marks larger, right? And that is all for section 1.4. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.